Hugo Gonzalez is the mystery prospect who might just be a franchise-altering player.
Said it, I'm golden. Told you I'm shining. Had to break through. Plan perfect timing. Giving no hands. Go get it.
The Miami Heat picked 20th overall in the upcoming 2025 NBA draft, and so far my draft series I've discussed: Liam McNeely, Rasheed Fleming, Noah Asenge, Will Riley, Nick Clifford, Walter Clayton Jr., Cedric Howard, Nolan Troyer, Ben Soff, Jace Richardson, Carter Bryant, Thomas Humber, Danny Wolf, Maxime Reynaud, Adu Thero, Hassan Young, and now Hugo Gonzalez. I want to give a shout out to my guy Leo Herans, who left a very well in-depth comment kind of explaining why he thinks that Hugo Gonzalez could be a steal of the NBA draft. And based off my research, I kind of agree with him. I want to start by looking at his official combine measurements, in which he actually did attend the combine, came over from Spain, and had some pretty impressive measurables, weighing in at 223 pounds, just a little over 6'6", with nearly a 6'11" wingspan. So very nice frame, already has NBA size, which is even more impressive when you consider that he just turned 19 years old a few months ago. Having NBA size, 19 years old, very, very rare prospect, but he's a guy whose potential I think is through the roof. And I want to preface the rest of this video by saying that, because I'm about to show you his stats here from EuroLeague and from La Liga, and they're not great, but just keep in mind, he will be drafted based off the little flashes that he's shown, not his actual on-court production, because he didn't play a lot. We're going to go ahead and look at his last season here with Real Madrid in the EuroLeague. Played 27 games, 8 minutes a night, got you 2 points per game. And if you want to look at his Liga stats with Real Madrid, played 29 games, 14 minutes a night, so a little bit more playing time, but only got you 5 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, an assist. Shot 44% from the field, but 27% from three. He did have 77% of his shots knocked down from the free throw line, so that's probably the biggest positive here. But there's a few things that you really want to look at here, right? Don't analyze the numbers for what they actually are. I want to start by noting that he started his pro career in 2022. That means that he was 16 years old when he started playing professional basketball. That alone is enough of a reason for me to be like, damn, this kid has some crazy potential to even make Real Madrid one of the best teams in Europe at 16 years old. That's insane. Think back to what you were doing at 16 years old. It wasn't playing professional basketball, unless Hugo Gonzalez is watching this video. I mean, at 16, what was I doing? 16, it would have been, what was that? Damn, that's like 11 years ago now. Then was that 2014? I was watching the Heat lose to the Spurs in the finals. I guess that's what I was doing when I was 16 years old. But anyways, I also want to note that the reason he didn't get heavy minutes is because his team with Real Madrid was absolutely stacked. Just look at some of the names on this roster. Bruno Fernando, who was a first-round pick a few years ago. Dennis Smith Jr. is mentioned by J. Cole in a J. Cole song. Maybe you heard of him. Facundo Campazzo, the fun point guard back from the Denver Nuggets. Mario Hezonja, who literally dunked on Giannis and blocked LeBron. That's the guy that Hugo Gonzalez is competing for minutes with, Mario Hezonja. And then also Serge Ibaka, NBA champion. We know he was a great player for a while. Sergio Llull, one of the best Real Madrid players ever, probably the best Real Madrid player. And there's a few other names in there who have had some, impressive stints in EuroLeague. Usman Garuba had some NBA minutes. Point is, that Real Madrid team is absolutely stacked. They went 20-4 in EuroLeague and then 30-4 in Liga. So they're trying to win a championship. They're not going to be relying on 19-year-old Hugo Gonzalez. So that's why he didn't play much. But the fact that he was even on that roster, that shows you how talented a player that he is. And then, as our guy Leo pointed out earlier with his comments, Hugo is literally on the best team in the best league in Europe. And the same thing can't be said about some of the other international prospects that I like Nolan Troyer or Ben Soff. Those guys were in good leagues. They were in competitive leagues, but they weren't on Real Madrid like Hugo is. There's levels to this. Our guy Leo also left another comment and said that he wants to point out that in 23-24, Hugo Demon and Hugo Gonzalez played together at the Real Madrid Academy, and Hugo Gonzalez actually started over him. I was a little confused by this comment because Igor is kind of a point guard. I know he's 6'9", so he's big, but he will play guard in the NBA, and Leo will probably play like the small forward spot. So I don't think they were necessarily the same position. But nonetheless, Leo points out that in that academy, Hugo started over Igor, which is relevant because Igor is a guy that maybe you haven't heard of because I haven't talked about him yet. But it's because he's projected to be a lottery pick. So obviously he's a guy that is pretty highly touted. Also, something I learned during my research, which I found pretty interesting, is, and maybe this is the reason why Igor is more highly touted than Hugo, is Igor actually came to the United States. He played his freshman season at BYU, and obviously he got a lot of exposure there being in America, and he's going to be a lottery pick compared to a guy like Hugo who stayed in Spain. He was with Real Madrid. He didn't get a lot of playing time, and now he's a guy who, probably won't even be a first-round pick, or he'll be a late first-round pick, early second-round pick type of guy. So Igor kind of made the right decision. Supposedly, BYU paid him $100 to buy him out of his contract in Europe to come over to college. So Igor not only got $1 million to come here, but he got the exposure of playing college basketball, and it's looking like his draft stock improved because of it. So maybe Hugo made the wrong decision staying over there, because I did also hear BYU was interested in him as well. But we'll see what happens in terms of their NBA career. It also was interesting, though, because we talked about Traore, that last year there was a tournament called Adidas Next Gen Tournament in which Nolan Traore played, and then Hugo and Igor Demin played. They were on the same team. And in that game, Real Madrid won. They won by 1 point. And Hugo actually outplayed Nolan Traore. Hugo had 23 points, 3 assists, and 6 rebounds. Nolan Traore had only 18 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds. So both guys played well, but statistically, Hugo was a little bit better. 5 steals and 2 blocks as well. So he really showed his defensive prowess, which we'll get into, kind of what he's known for at this point. But then also, Hugo actually hit a game-tying 3 to send the game into overtime. Just a monster cojones shot. And although his 3-point percentages aren't great, I like the fact that the kid seems to have some balls by hitting this game-tying shot in this random Adidas tournament. So point is, if you don't want to trust his stats from EuroLeague or Liga, then at least you have this one tournament where, again, he's shown flashes. That's why he'll be drafted. He has shown flashes of being able to do a lot of different things. Now, not enough to be an early first-round pick, but somebody who will be there when the Heat pick at 20, or potential great trade back candidates. Maybe he's a guy that he could reach for, because he's not going to go too far after 20. NBA Draft on Net had him at 24. Bleacher Report had him at 33, which is the lowest. But then CBS had him at 26. ESPN had him at 24. Tankathon at 31. And Yahoo at 27. So I don't think it would be crazy to say that he could take him at 20. That wouldn't be too far of a reach. Maybe a little bit. But if the Heat really like this guy, go and get your guy. Don't play all these games about, let me trade back, and then you might miss out on him completely. Some of the player comps that I've seen, I do like a lot. I saw Bojan Bogdanovic, who decent defender in his day, great shooter. And then the next comp I saw is kind of hilarious considering all the rumors that are going on. But I saw Jonathan Kuminga, which, why trade for Kuminga if we could just draft Spanish Kuminga? I do think both those comparisons do make a little bit of sense in terms of versatile, switchy, Swiss Army knife type small forwards. But the one comparison that I kind of came up with when I was doing my research on Hugo is Deni Avdija, because Deni Avdija also played in Europe before getting drafted, and his numbers weren't great either. It was a very small sample size. He was playing with Maccabi Tel Aviv, whatever that team name is, also a very good team. So he didn't get the sample size. He came into the league, and I think he was a higher draft pick anyways, but he wasn't a great player initially. It really took him a few years to get going, and now you're seeing him with Portland, where he was awesome, turned into a great defender, very reliable shooter at this point, and I do think that Hugo can have a similar career arc to Deni Avdija, which would be great if he can achieve that. Now I wanted to get into some of his strengths and weaknesses from Kevin O'Connor in his Yahoo article, but of course I'll share my research or my thoughts off my independent research as well. The first strength that Kevin lists is Hugo's defense. He says that Gonzalez regularly makes second and third efforts on defense, rotating over to the paint to help contain an attacker, then hustling back to the perimeter to corral another possible scorer. With his athleticism, awareness, and intensity, he has all the tools to someday be a highly versatile defender both on and off the ball. That's a long way of saying that he's Heat culture. Tries hard on defense, very versatile. We know Spo likes to switch everything. At 6'6" with a 6'11" wingspan, I do think that Hugo can guard 3s through 4s, maybe some slower 2s. Hugo is very athletic, but I think his lateral quickness leaves a little bit to be desired. At least right now. Obviously, he can grow into that and then maybe guard 2 through 4s. And now you're talking about a very versatile defender. But what he is now, he is athletic. He does have a long wingspan. He does try very hard. And for that reason, he's obviously has all the tools to be a great defender. And that's something I'm very optimistic about when it comes to Hugo. The next strength they have listed is his finishing. It says that he's a solid at-rim finisher who can score athletically when he has space to launch, coming off of both cuts and self-created straight line drives. He also was asked to create shots out of ball screens for the Spanish national team, showing a feel for splitting pick and rolls. So there's a little bit of offensive versatility there. I think that's where you got the Kuminga comparison. Kuminga likes to do a lot of mid-range shooting. Obviously, he's most effective when getting to the rim. I don't think Hugo has Kuminga athleticism, but he is a guy who's made some really nice reads, like they said, getting straight line drives, even had some putback dunks. You can tell he has that athleticism and scoring versatility, although I don't think his ball handling is good enough to be an isolation scorer. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Next, it says that shooting upside is a strength of his. Yes, he only made 27% of his threes in 3 years combined at Real Madrid and with the Spanish national team. But like we noted earlier, 77.6% free throw shooter. That's an encouraging sign that he could be a capable shooter one day in the NBA, especially if he was to get in the Heat's development staff in the way that they develop shooters. I do think he can be a shooter like that. The shooting is not a concern of mine at this moment. I think he has great form. He has a huge arc on his shot, which is a good thing. The higher arc you have, the better trajectory it has of going in the rim. It's just that when you miss, a lot of times your misses look a lot worse because they bounce up really high. So that's why I think visually he may look like a worse shooter than he is just because of the misses. But if you look at his form, he jumps high in the air, has great follow through. I think he'll be a good shooter in the NBA with some development. Moving on to his weaknesses. First one says ball handling. Hasn't shown much of an ability to generate shots for himself or others. Lacks a mid-range pull-up or wiggle to get to the rim. He has good but not great first step as well. Yeah, the ball handling thing is definite. He definitely looked like he had some trouble getting separation when I was watching his film. And the whole pull-up game, like, not a lot of people shoot mid-range nowadays. I know we just said Kuminga does. He's a rarity in that regard, but like, the mid-range game is almost dead. I wish players would get back to it, and maybe Hugo can develop that, but that's just not something a lot of players start out with. It's more of an old man game, so maybe he can get to that one day. And as far as the wiggle to get to the rim, I hate that comment. That's a thing that, like, these analysts, quote unquote, always put into their scouting reports. The guy doesn't have wiggle. Like, isn't that what they were saying about Tua? Didn't like Colin Cowherd say that about Tua Tagovailoa? Like, oh, he's not as good as Herbert because he doesn't have the wiggle. How does that even mean? I don't know. That's a stupid point. But then the last weakness they have listed just says experience. Gonzalez barely played last season, about over 10 minutes per game, whatever. Yeah, it's hard for him to get as much minutes on the talented team he was on. We already discussed that. And to me, if you got two weaknesses listed, ball handling and experience, that to me means that you really don't have that many weaknesses at all. We talked about this in some of my other draft videos, but I think experience is the best weakness that you can have. Like, for example, any job interview I've ever done in my life, like when they say, what's your biggest weakness? And everybody always says, oh, I'm a perfectionist. Oh, I try too hard. Those answers are dumb. That just makes you look arrogant, right? What you always want to say when the interviewer asks you that question is say experience. Say, obviously, don't say obviously, but say I'm applying for this job because I currently don't have a job or I'm looking for a new position. So I don't have the exact experience of what you're looking for. Unless you do have that experience, maybe you're doing same job at a different company. But say I have done other similar things that would allow me to learn quickly, or I'm a quick learner. It's just, I think saying experience as your weakness is the best thing to say because you can always get experience, but do you have the tools to succeed in that position? And in this case with Hugo Gonzalez, I do think he has the tools to succeed as an NBA player. As far as his fit on the Miami Heat, definitely a raw prospect. I think he can either be a home run or a complete bust. There's potentially a middle ground where he's a nice 3-and-D player. But if the Heat keep this pick, they're likely not getting Kevin Durant, because I'm assuming pick 20 will be in a Kevin Durant deal. Yesterday was confirmed by Mark Stein. The Heat will not trade Khalil Ware, meaning that this number 20 pick will probably be gone if we get KD. If we don't get him, we're going to have this pick. And that means I don't think the Heat will be very good next year. So I love the idea of getting a mystery box high upside player. Get this young guy, just turned 19, with his size, his wingspan, his athleticism, and put him in the Heat development system. And I have the utmost confidence that he'll just turn into a pretty great player one day. Could also be a good trade back candidate, like we mentioned earlier. Get some additional assets, which the Heat could use. I don't think that Hugo would play much as a rookie, because he'd have a similar role to guys like Haywood or Pella, and he just wouldn't play ahead of those guys right now. But I do think he could have a role as a versatile Swiss Army knife, a small forward type of player. If he can become similar to Denny Avdia, that's where you get the home run. You know, that would be the perfect fit for this team, because he doesn't need the ball. Could take some of the scoring load off Tyler and Bam. Also take the defensive load off of those guys, and really the whole team. He could be like a clear replacement for Andrew Wiggins one day. I know Wiggins is a former first overall pick, way more athletic, definitely better scorer. But in terms of like a 3-and-D guy who's maybe a little bit more versatile to score, that's what Hugo Gonzalez could do, and I think every team can use that. But that's really all I got to say for this video, so let me know your thoughts down below. Are you interested in the Miami Heat potentially taking Hugo Gonzalez? Very curious to hear what y'all think. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. I'm on the grind to hit 8,000 subs. The draft is in 4 days, people. Is that it? Yeah, 4 days. I'm excited for it. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Look, pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.